Hello, my name is Barsam, and I will be talking about how technology is devouring our children. Before I start, I'd like to apologize on my rashy voice. I just had a water polo game. Introduction. What has technology done to modern day children? As we know, anywhere between the first 8 to 20 months of a child's life is extremely crucial. This is when sudden brain maturation happens, the development of motor skills, and actual physical growth. This is also the time where a mother and her family must be there for the child and connect with that child. They must be able to create a relationship that builds a bond of trust between both persons. However, in today's times, from my own personal experience, I have seen in multiple cases children as young as 12 months sitting in a corner wrapped up in blankets and watching TV. Our children should not be learning from these screens that are killing their childhood, but rather experiencing it firsthand or outside, something that would require them to take physical action. A child can be vulnerable to technology at a young age as it is addictive, and if they develop that addiction early on, it will be harder to get rid of. As we get older, we take in these bad habits created in our young age, and it will end up slowly ruining us. On the bottom left hand side, we can see a picture of a brother and sister backs to each other because they're antisocial and on their laptops doing their own separate things. Technology is something that we should be using on our alone time and not when we're with family or others. Main points. What children are doing now and how it will affect us in the long run. Technology, especially smartphones, are highly addictive objects. More than 50% of kids watch TV at least once per day, and by doing this it rewards them. Them watching another show always has them going back for more as it takes little to no effort. As they grow up, they wonder why they turned out to become antisocial, and it was all due to the fact that their parents allowed them to use technology so much. At a young age, children must be protected and not be exposed to technology as much as they are now. They are vulnerable in the fact that it is very easy for them to become addicted to because they have no control. Here's a picture statistic on how kids are using technology every day. 60% of kids read or are read to, which is a fairly good number, but those same kids could be using mobile devices still. Hence why 58% of kids still watch at least TV once a day. That is a pretty big number. And these are kids ranging from 0 to 8 years old. 18% watch DVDs, 17% watch mobile devices, 14% use computer at the age of 0 to 8, 7% have handheld a video game, 6% use video game console, and 4% actually read an ebook. Now, guaranteed this source may be a little outdated, 2013, but this just means that the real numbers from 2018, 2019, or even 2016 are way higher than this. Here's a short video and an interesting fact of why Steve Jobs never let his children use an iPad at his house.
We'd like to show it to you today for the first time, and we call it the iPad.
Steve Jobs in 2010 was on the stage at the Apple event releasing the iPad, and he described it as a wonderful device that brought you educational tools. It allowed you to surf the web, it allowed you to watch videos, it allowed you to interact with other people. And he basically said it's the best way to do all those things. 2 years later, when he was asked, your kids must love the iPad, he said, actually, we don't allow the iPad in the home. We think it's too dangerous for them, in effect. The reason why he said that was because he recognized just how addictive the iPad was as a vehicle for delivering things to people. That once you had the iPad in front of you, or when you took it away from the home with you, you'd always have access to these platforms that were very addictive, that were hard to resist. So where his kids were very well adapted, well adjusted, may not have been prime targets for, say, substance abuse, they, like everyone else, are susceptible to the charms of something like an iPad and what it delivers.
As shown in the video, technology is very addictive, and Steve Jobs does a great way of explaining this. how he, the creator of Apple and the iPad, does not even allow his own children to use such advice. And as explained by the narrator, this device has a lot of platforms that are beyond educational use. There's things that can distract us, like social media platforms, YouTube, and other places to watch videos and films. Here's another short video of how our phones are changing us.
Of the 7 billion people on Earth, roughly 6 billion own a cell phone, which is pretty shocking given that only 4.5 billion have access to a working toilet. So, how are these popular gadgets changing your body and brain? If you're looking down at your phone right now, your spine angle is equivalent to that of an 8-year-old child sitting on your neck, which is fairly significant considering people spend an average of 4.7 hours a day looking at their phone. This, combined with the length of time spent in front of computers, has led to an increase in the prevalence of myopia or nearsightedness in North America. In the 1970s, about 1/4 of the population had myopia, where today nearly half do, and in some parts of Asia, 80 to 90% of the population is now nearsighted. And it can be hard to put your phone down. Take for example the game Candy Crush. As you play the game, you achieve small goals, causing your brain to be rewarded with little bursts of dopamine, and eventually you're rewarded in the game with new content. This novelty also gives little bursts of dopamine and together create what is known as a compulsion loop, which just happens to be the same loop responsible for the behaviors associated with nicotine or cocaine. Our brains are hardwired to make us novelty seeking, and this is why apps on our phones are designed to constantly provide us with new content, making them hard to put down. As a result, 93% of young people aged 18 to 29 report using their smartphone as a tool to avoid boredom, as opposed to other activities like reading a book or engaging with people around them. This has created a new term, nomophobia.
I'm gonna stop that video halfway because the other half says things that we already know. But this video does a great job at explaining how our future will turn out when we are phone users. As we saw at the beginning, kids as they grow up and become older, they will develop myopia at a larger and faster rate than in the 1940s. And that's pretty crazy thinking how all these disorders can be caused by just a simple phone. We can see that we can develop many physical problems with our body when using our phone because of how much we're bending our neck up and down as well. Conclusion. Technology is a highly addictive thing that must be controlled within everyone, especially our children. Making our children vulnerable to such situations will end up hurting them in the long run, making them more antisocial and immune to bullying. With technology, it will completely change the way your son or daughter thinks and feels. There are many ways to get rid of this device, however, we are dealing with an addict here, which is our children. It can't just be taken away immediately, but rather needs to be taken away slowly, so the child has enough time to detach herself from it and slowly attach herself to more educated related objects like a book. This PowerPoint was to explain on how technology has taken over our children's lives in a non-educational way and what can we do to fix it.